Welcome, everybody. This is Catherine with Community CPA, and this is our 3 p.m. webinar. Thursdays are always our special day because we bring in our guests to speak about what they're doing for the community, some of the community needs that they're seeing, and how everyone can help. So today we have John Bowler from the Coralville Community Pantry. John, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate your time.
Happy to be here. Thanks so much, Catherine.
Yeah, so we'd love to hear about what the pantry is, like the history and the mission of it. As for those of you who are outside of the Iowa City area, the Coralville is a city that's next to Iowa City, so we're in that region, so Johnson County, Iowa.
Perfect. Well, do you want me to take it away?
Yes.
All right, super. Well, thanks again, Catherine. And it's been such a pleasure getting to know you this year. Really proud to have you in town in Coralville now, your office. It's great to be neighbors in that way. My name is John Bowler. I'm the executive director of the Coralville Community Food Pantry. The organization has been around for 12 years, and I've been with it about 9 years. So a good chunk of the time, I was their first ever paid staff person that they brought on prior to me joining. It was a volunteer-run effort, like a lot of food pantries in the state of Iowa and in the country. Actually, I think I heard a statistic somewhere that 90% of food pantries in the United States are volunteer-run, and they're in church closets, basements, places like that. So there's not a whole lot of formal nonprofit food pantries. There's food banks, and I'll kind of talk about those distinctions later too. But the Coralville Community Food Pantry, we are an anti-hunger nonprofit organization that provides critical and innovative food assistance services to the greater Coralville community. And as Catherine mentioned, Coralville is a neighboring community to Iowa City. We're in Johnson County. It's a city of about 21,000 people. And it's a really diverse community as well too, as far as socioeconomically, racially. And it's kind of spilled over from Iowa City as a university community. But it's got a growing, commerce sector. There's great local schools here, neighborhoods that are somewhat affordable, more affordable than Johnson or than in Iowa City, but compared to other parts of the state of Iowa, Johnson County is actually the most expensive place to live, which I'll talk about that a little bit later too, and how that perpetuates the hunger problem. So, but in a nutshell, I'll run through kind of our mission and our vision. But as an organization, we believe that food is a human right, and we believe that food has the power to bring people together. And our ultimate vision is to build a stronger, healthier, and hunger-free Coralville community. So in our organization, I kind of hinted at this earlier, but we're relatively small as far as staff goes. We have 4 total staff. We're small but mighty, I like to say. And we're driven and powered by volunteers, community volunteers. And in the pre-COVID days, we would average about I think 120 to 150 community volunteers that were actively involved with our work in any given year. But since then, it's dipped down quite a bit, like a lot of direct service nonprofits. And right now we're averaging probably about 40 or 50 pretty regular routine volunteers. So that's been a challenge for us, certainly. But
what do the volunteers do when they're serving?
Yeah, so back in the day, and it's actually pretty similar now, but we have, we're open to the public. Our primary program is our food assistance program. So that's where we offer multiple days a week. Anybody who lives in Coralville or some of the neighboring rural communities, such as Tiffin or Oxford, they can come into the food pantry, and our pantry is set up like a free grocery store, essentially, with a wide variety of food items on the shelf. Anywhere from shelf-stable goods to fresh produce to meat, dairy products, milk, eggs, even plant-based proteins, and even personal care items too, like diapers, baby food, feminine hygiene products, condoms, pet food, dog and cat food, that sort of thing. So we're always needing multiple hands to make this operation work. So we have volunteers who will help stock the shelves or receive food deliveries and get food where it needs to go. Volunteers who are here when we're open to the public, who can help people check in and make sure they're finding everything okay and help them bag their groceries at the end. And then 2, we have at the beginning of the pandemic, one of the ways we adapted our services was to launch a home delivery program. So prior to that, our services were just located in our four walls here at the food pantry, but we started a home delivery program in March of 2020. And that was our attempt to make sure we were reaching folks who were homebound and just were not comfortable physically coming to the food pantry. And pretty quickly into that process, we realized that's a really good service that we should continue for the long haul. So
for sure. So do you ever get groups in then? Like if there's a business that wants has employees that would like to participate?
Totally. Yeah. We love group activities. It's been a little harder in these COVID times because we're trying to be pretty particular about making sure our very small space in here isn't too overcrowded. So that's limited our ability to welcome larger groups. But we always welcome, if there's a larger group, maybe people are interested in splitting up into smaller groups to come in and assist with us. And we're finding other ways too that larger groups and businesses can maybe do some things for us outside of our building, and whether it's repackaging dog and cat food in their own spaces, bringing it to us. But we're eager to kind of get back to that normal where we can bring in larger groups to help with those type of things.
Yeah, that's great, John. So you mentioned that the cost of living in Johnson County and its impact on food insecurity. Do you have any stats on that, or as it pertains to Coralville?
Yeah, stat wise, shoot, I'm not as polished on it's been interesting. The food insecurity rate has changed the past couple of years. And definitely in the last 2 years, it's gone up and down. I'm on the board of the Iowa Hunger Coalition, so I do get some numbers from them. Occasionally, they kind of get a Iowa snapshot of how many people are utilizing food stamps, for example, and how many people are utilizing food pantries. And off the top of my head, I don't know those numbers, but I know we serve in Coralville about 3,400 people on average each year, and that's about 1,200 households. And that number tends to increase about 15% each year. And I believe the last time I checked just the food insecurity rates in Johnson County, it was anywhere between 8 and 12% of the population. So it's a good chunk of people who routinely don't have access to the food that they need to thrive. And that's certainly a threshold too. There's people who are on the extreme end of the food insecurity spectrum, and others who, especially as we learned during the pandemic, people who were just kind of on the fringe, and it just took one crisis for them to realize I don't have a safety net and I need to turn to a place like a food pantry, my church, a neighborhood association to ask for help. And so we've seen a lot of first-time visitors in the last 2 years, especially.
Yeah. So in terms of demographics, would you say it tends to be families then who are coming to your pantry?
Good question. It's actually a pretty good mix. And we do some annual surveying just to get a good glimpse of who we're serving. And it is pretty evenly split. We have a good chunk of just independent seniors, for example, who are living on their own. Probably 30% of our members are families and have, children aging from 0 to 18. And then, some folks are just kind of in the middle who, have households of 1 or 2 people, maybe middle-aged or so. But yeah, a good chunk. I think our numbers showed about 900 to 1,000 children out of those 3,400 people that we're serving each year.
Yeah. So in terms of like the type of services that the pantry provides, can you explain a little bit about that? And the difference between a pantry and a food bank?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I'll start with that first. So in the state of Iowa, I think there's 5 or 6 food banks, and the food banks are more of a distributor and a warehouse mechanism. They get food that comes from the USDA, larger corporate entities that provide major in-kind donations, and they, again, have a warehouse essentially that they distribute their food to the organizations that provide direct services to individuals in the community, whether that's a food pantry, a neighborhood center, a shelter, a church, even schools now. I've helped here locally in Johnson County and in Lynn County, a few schools start food pantries in their schools, which are a great way to get food to kids. But as far as our services, I mentioned kind of our bread and butter, pun intended, is our food assistance program. And so that's the reason we exist. So we're open multiple days a week. Anybody who lives in our community can come and visit. We try to keep the barriers pretty limited. So we just ask a few simple questions and then allow people to come through and they get to select the food that they need. We've been a choice food pantry, as it's called, since we started back in 2009, and that's really important to us. So again, people come through and they get to choose what foods and personal care items that they need for themselves instead of us pre-packaging and making assumptions about households. So, and then if for folks who can't utilize our in-person services, we still have our home delivery program up and running. And right now we're averaging anywhere between 80 and 100 deliveries every week. So we have a home delivery coordinator who manages that and a fleet of volunteers too. So I'll mention that as a volunteer opportunity. People who utilize their own vehicles, they show up maybe once or twice a week and maybe run 3 or 4 deliveries each time they sign up to a household in Coralville. And so that's really one of our, again, kind of sister program to our food assistance program. But other things that we do that are similar to our mission, again, of bringing people together and ensuring that food is a human right. We have our community meal program. And in the before times, we used to have those scheduled at least 4 times a year. And we've had to cut that back a little bit the past 2 years. And then we work really closely with the local schools, and we will do things like backpack programs and what we call a school break nutrition program. So anytime there's an extended break from school, we know a lot of families really struggle to put food on the table because they rely really heavily on local schools to help them provide breakfast and lunch for their kids. And so what we do is we partner with our local 2 elementary schools in Coralville and the junior high, and we make sure we send a good amount of groceries that can cover breakfast and lunch for as long as the break is extended. So those are, yeah, it's just a glimpse of what we do. Oh, forgot to mention, sorry, one more relatively new program called Veggie RX, and we're actually in our 2nd year of that right now. And this is our way of supporting local farmers, but connecting the members that we serve here at the food pantry with really good food that is grown at these local farms. So we partner with a few other food pantries in the area, and we purchase right now, this year, we purchased about 50 CSA shares, which is a full season's worth of fruits and veggies from a local farm. And those are given out to 50 families here in our community, and they get to enjoy really high quality food on a weekly basis. So that's been really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if somebody wants to come to the pantry, are there income restrictions? Do they have to bring an ID, that sort of thing?
Great question. Yeah, there are no income restrictions at all. It's just if you come here and say you are in need of food, we will help you out. We do just want to make sure if folks are living in Coralville or Tiffin and some of those other areas that are not being served as easily by other food pantries in the area. In Johnson County, we have some really strong food pantries. There's Community Food Bank based in Iowa City, North Liberty Community Pantry in North Liberty, IC Compassion, which is in Iowa City. So we all work collectively together just to make sure we're not duplicating too many of our services. But so that said, we ask folks to show us some sort of proof of living in Coralville, Tiffin, or Oxford, whatever it might be. So that could just be piece of mail, a utility bill, something like that. And then some sort of ID. It doesn't have to be a driver's license. It can be a work ID. It can be the Johnson County Community ID. We want to make it as least stressful as possible for folks to come in and get the services that they deserve.
Perfect, John. So you mentioned a bit of how people can help. Who should they reach out to?
Yeah, so again, we have 4 staff members here, including myself, and we have, her name's Paula. She's our volunteer coordinator, so she'd be the person to reach out to if you're interested in getting signed up for a volunteer shift. And I can leave you with that information, Catherine, but folks listening can definitely go to our website, coralvillefoodpantry.org. They can reach out to me too, just to kind of learn more about the organization. If people, actually another opportunity for businesses down the road would be to get involved with our community meal program. And at some point here, we're hoping to launch a hot meal program that would happen on a more routine basis. And our mutual friend, Hai Huyn, who's our community projects coordinator here, she is the coordinator of all of that work. And so she'd be the person to get in touch with there. But yeah, I'd just point people to our website or Facebook page. We're definitely looking for volunteers. As I mentioned, we've seen a huge dip, and it's been rough. So we would definitely appreciate as many helping hands as possible.
Perfect, John. Thanks for letting us know about this. Any other thoughts in terms of the bigger picture of how COVID has impacted the community, and what we can do to help solve or combat food insecurity together.
Yeah, that's a really big question, and I think we're all kind of curious to see what the longer term impact will be. We know, like I mentioned, just so many more people than ever before were turning to food pantries for help. And for a while there was some good assistance that made its way to households, and we're kind of seeing now a lot of those protections are fading away a little bit. I've been encouraged to see that there are some increases in SNAP benefits, so families are able to take home a little more food just in their regular lives through that. But we're definitely kind of prepared and anticipating things to not necessarily get any better in the coming year or two, or even the next decade. So we're prepared to continue to provide this vital food for our neighbors, and work together collaboratively with partners such as Community CPA, Immigrant Entrepreneurs Summit, to just find ways to improve quality of life in our community too. So there's lots that can be done, and excited to work with people like you, Catherine. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you, John. We can end it here if there, or open it up to questions. I don't know if any of our viewers have any thoughts on what they would like to ask John. We'll leave it open for a minute. Otherwise, we can close out. And again, thank you for participating.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for having me. And yeah, feel free, anyone, to get in touch with us. CoralvilleFoodPantry.org, probably the easiest way, or just ask Catherine. She'll get you in touch.
Yes. I know you're pretty, you post fairly frequently on Facebook as well, and social media. So that's another great way to find out more about what they do. And I know they post community events and that sort of thing. So I do follow your page.
Hey, great.
All right. Thanks, John. I appreciate your time here, and we'll connect soon. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and we will see you again.
Thanks. Bye, Catherine.
Bye.